Welcome to the Inc. Productivity Tip of the Day. Today's tip: what does it take to feel wealthy? 2 new studies suggest. Not what you think. What do you need to feel wealthy in America today? If you look at cold, hard statistics, you can tell that a net worth north of $854,900 will put you in the top 10% of households in the country. Or if you just ask people, they'll give you a number, $2.2 million on average to be exact. But as we all know, feeling wealthy isn't just about what it says on your bank statement. It's about expectations and cost of living as much as cold hard cash. For example, $800,000 in Mississippi is not the same as $800,000 in Manhattan. Similarly, you would likely feel very different about your net worth depending on whether you were hanging out with your next-door neighbor or Warren Buffett. If you want to know what it takes to actually feel wealthy, not just statistically be wealthy, you need to talk about psychology, not just economics. And 2 new studies of the psychological aspects of wealth recently turned up interesting findings that suggest many entrepreneurs probably need to rethink what it takes to feel wealthy. The first of this pair of studies is a survey of 2,500 American workers carried out by payroll services provider ADP. The findings are good news for self-employed. The poll found that 3/4 of independent workers feel they are fairly compensated, compared with just 68% of full-time employees. The second study, from Schwab, directly asks 1,000 Americans, "Do you feel wealthy?" Again, the answers might surprise you. The most likely generations to feel wealthy were Gen Z and millennials, 46% of whom said they felt wealthy, compared with just 40% of boomers. That's despite boomers having an average net wealth per household of $1.6 million, compared with just $221,209 for millennials. And also, despite the fact that many more millennials told Schwab that they compare their lifestyles with those of their friends on social media. 51% of millennials said their views of wealth were influenced by social media, compared with just 9% of boomers. Is there anything to make out of this smattering of findings? You might just throw up your hands and conclude people are weird about money. But a deeper reading suggests that there are some insights to be had here about what leads people to feel wealthy. The Wall Street Journal article writing up the ADP findings, for instance, points out that what sets the self-employed apart from salaried employees isn't how much they earn, which can vary widely based on circumstance, but how much control they have over their time. The Wall Street Journal's Katie Mogg reported, whether freelancers are earning less or around the same amount, the time saved by being their own boss is a big part of why they're happy. Compensation and negotiating experts say. She talks to a handful of independent workers who make significantly less working for themselves, but nonetheless feel more fairly compensated. Writing, "What's more important to me right now is my family, doing something that I feel is useful in the world, and something that's creative," said one consultant whose salary fell by nearly half when he decided to go independent. The overarching message of these conversations is that control over your time is a much bigger contributor to feelings of being fairly compensated than those focused solely on salary numbers might imagine. Similarly, reading the Schwab study, you can't help but conclude that more money clearly does not lead to feeling wealthier. Boomers would be dancing in the streets to celebrate their success if that were so. Instead, when Schwab straight up asked people what factors made them wealthy, the top answers were having a fulfilling personal life, not having to stress over money, enjoying experiences. Factors like having more money than most people I know and owning nice things were much less popular answers. Put all this together and you understand that what makes people feel wealthy is less about their impressive numbers and material circumstances and more about feeling free to pursue the things they think are important in life. Millennials and independent workers might not have as much money, but they do tend to be less tied to the demands of others and more free to pursue their own passions. And that flexibility seems to make many of them feel wealthier, all of which jives with the testimony of experts who insist that wealth is about much more than money. It's about being rich in a range of resources, from time and relationships to health and wisdom. Feeling wealthy, all of this suggests, is less about chasing a particular number, but instead about balancing competing priorities to design a life that gives you more of the things you value. And if your definition of wealth is all about money and money alone, These studies suggest you're less likely to end up feeling wealthy in the end. That's it from Inc. For more expert advice from today's top business leaders and thought leaders, go to Inc.com. Check back each weekday morning for more tips from Inc.